All right. Hello. Shalom. Welcome, everyone. And once again, thank you for your time. Thank you for tuning in and joining tonight's discussions as we continue through the Overcomer Promise that's been promised to the seven assemblies in the book of Revelation written by Yahushua HaMashiach himself. And as we've known to be doing in the past, is as Yahweh leads, we tend to deviate a little bit. It's still somewhat related to, to what we've been discussing. But so tonight, we're not exactly going to delve into the last Overcomer Promise, because I think there's one little piece that I would like to just bring to our awareness as part of the Overcomer Promise in Revelation 3. That was for the assembly in Philadelphia. But I have in front of you Proverbs 4. And we talked about this last Tuesday. And I want us to sort of chew on the words a little bit, because I think this will take us nicely to perhaps, Yah willing, what we are going to end up talking about next Tuesday, which is a holistic approach to healing. Okay. So Proverbs 4, 20 to 22, I think this is the one. So it's right in front.
It was 4,
22.
Okay. So I think you begin from 20. My son, listen to my words, incline your ear to my sayings. Let them not depart from your eyes. Guard them in the midst of your heart, for they are life to those who find them, and healing to all their flesh. Watch over your heart with all diligence, for out of it are the sources of life. Turn away from you a crooked mouth, and put perverse lips far from you. Let your eyes look forward, and your eyelids look straight before you. Consider the paths of your feet, and all your ways are established. Do not turn to the right or left.
Amen.
Turn your foot away from me.
Hallelujah. 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 Thank you, sister. So when, don't you, if you have this verse hidden in your heart, and an opportunity comes up for you to speak life to someone who's suffering a disease, doesn't this chapter kind of just brings it nicely together? Right?
Yes.
Right there, my child, pay attention. Pay attention. We talked about that last Tuesday. Where do our resources go to? Right? We all have the ability. It is within our capability. It is free, in a sense, to pay attention to my words. And then it says, listen closely to what I say. Right? And don't forget. So don't forget. Do not let them depart from your eyes. Keep them in the midst of your heart. So we talked about last Tuesday that attention isn't free. This is why we pay attention, right? And where attention goes, and this is all we will be supported by the neuroscience community, the people who study our brain and our electromagnetic biology that we all have the capability of emitting. But where the attention goes, energy flows. So when we are talking about payment, first thing we default to is money, credit cards, or even time, right? Whatever it is that is used as a means of exchange. But we hardly, probably fifth on the list, or the last on the list, we think that energy really is the body's currency, right? And the science term for that is ATP, right? And the currency of the body, which is called an ATP, it does supply energy to all the cells, right? And so that's why if we look at this particular verse in Proverbs 20, we see that when we pay attention and we keep our eyes focused on the word, on Yahusha, right? And we keep them hidden in our heart. Look at this. They are life to those who find them and health to all their flesh.
Yes.
And I know if we were to have a round table right now, I know that in this little circle of intimate circle that we have that's meeting online, we have something to share, you know, um, some to a small extent, some to a much larger extent, but we have all experienced this, that Yahweh is the one really truly is the one that brings healing to us, right? And so I just want us to just listen to what the Ruach is trying to express in Proverbs 4 here, because we've been talking about like last Tuesday about the pineal organs in our mind, and we've been talking about how certain like for example Jacob, Adam, and Abraham has seen and has been with Yahweh, with in the light of, in your light I see light. That's what Psalm says. And we even think of, John. We think of even of Paul, right? When he was on the road to Damascus, he had an encounter with a bright light. So we have to remember that attention, everything that we give our heart to, it really has emotions attached to it, right? So if you look at emotions, and if you look at the word emotion in Google and you look up the etymology of the word emotion, it really means emotions, energy in motion. That's what emotion is driven from. So emotions are made up of a collection of thoughts. There is, sometimes people say random things, but there's actually no science behind that. There's no such thing as random. You wear your heart up your sleeves. Everything that comes out of your mouth comes from a collection of deep thoughts that have accumulated over time. So, and simply words are expressed thoughts, right? And so again, emotions, these thoughts have frequencies. And if we look at the scripture, Luke 11, the lamp of the body is the eye. If therefore your eye is good, your whole body will be full of light. Again, it's connected to eye, and it's just a singular term that's used there. But if you look at the word light, in the root Greek word of that is not talking about that one, because the way it's translated is the lamp. But if you look at this word here that speaks of holistic, of health, right? This light word here is photanos. Photanos is from the root word phos, right? Or photons.
Yeah.
If you look at that, right, brother?
Photon, yeah.
Right? See, so photanos is basically light, right? But if you look at the root word of this, the etymology, that's what I keep using that term. So words do evolve over time. They do morph. That's why if you watch the movie, Matrix, right? I don't know if you've seen that movie, but one of the main characters there, his name is Morpheus, right? So a lot of, and if you look at how he controls, he was the head of whatever Matrix team it was. But anyways, you see that word Phos is there. So Phos is really where photon comes from. And we know in the physical, so that we can understand, the sun emits photons, right? And so when you look at Isaiah 58, in Hebrew, this word is or, O-W-R. Then your light forth like the morning. Again, look at this. Your healing shall spring forth speedily. So you see how it's connected with the light, with healing. And if you look at the word, okay, and so before I go there, so we've talked about the pineal gland, and let's add the pituitary gland there. Science says that these two work together, and they are tied somehow to our body's ability to sense and actively experience electromagnetic phenomenon. And this is called the science of bioelectricity. And every one of us here in this forum, we're fully capable of cultivating and controlling the bioelectricity that we generate in our bodies. So what is that? And here's just a little bit of a science plug-in that I put in here. The difference of what we know as electricity versus bioelectricity is in degree, not in kind. So if you look at a lightning bolt, it can have temperatures of over 54,000 degrees Fahrenheit or 30,000 degrees in Celsius. See, that same current, you have to understand this, runs through the human body, just on a smaller scale, just on a cellular scale. So in fact, the human body runs largely off of bioelectricity and has organs dedicated to sensing electromagnetic impulses, both inside and outside the human body. Okay, so that's why at the top here, I look at the word electricity. You and I, we are a triune being. We are made up of, we are biological, right? We are chemical and we are electrical beings. All of these things work together within our body. And if you look at the word electricity, I just like to play with words. Look at that, brother. Elect city. See that? We are Yahweh's elect, and what the bride, or in other words, the Jerusalem, the city of Jerusalem, will descend one day soon above. So if we understand that, we have this immense lightning bolt like kind of current that runs through a human body. Does it make because we have some science, and I put in the articles here, that through the science of bioelectricity, there's evidence that limbs can grow. You hearing that? See that they have seen where, and I've shared this a couple times already. And I think the scientist, he stumbled upon this on an accident. Like it was just, he didn't really expect it. It was an accident. He stumbled upon it by accident. But whatever, I can't remember the exact circumstance was, but there was a child that had the finger cut off, just half of the finger. But through bioelectricity, through stimulating and using the body's ability to produce electricity, they have found that the missing finger actually grew back. See, Yahusha's miracles, the healings that he's done, his healing, his miracles, we would call them, is really in the timing. See, with Yahusha, he can, right, brother? Like, I think I heard someone say, we all can make wine if we want to, right? We just do the regular process of winemaking, but that takes time, right? But Yahusha does it, exactly. Yahusha does it just like that. And wine is made, right? So when the people that came to him that was missing limbs and, body parts that he was able to bring forth, now we have a little bit of a glimpse that says that our body is actually capable. of doing the same thing, only it takes humongous effort and time because we are so fallen, we are so far-fetched from where, where we're at from the way we're originally designed, right?
Yeah, and
So,
in this course that I'm taking and Anna is taking, when they do deliverance at the end, they are calling for creative miracles where needed, and it's happening.
Right. It's like, and see, this is what part of the message that we wanted to come across with on the family this weekend that we visited is, the first hint that you may have the potential big letter C in your body, right? What the very first thing that grips us is fear, right?
Of course. Yep.
And we don't understand that what we fear, we actually bring about somehow, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we have to question, and we can't give them a hard time and say, hey, you can't fear, you're not supposed to do that, that's not right. We have to understand why people fear, right? So we generally, people fear because of the unknown, right? So if you look at the spectrum, electromagnetic spectrum, it is vast, huge. It's I don't even know how big, but it's pretty big. And when it comes to the electromagnetic spectrum, so visible light, what you and I are able to behold and perceive through our physical eyes, it's only less than 1%. So when you look at the spectrum of electromagnetic, that spectrum of light, you're only seeing less than 1%, which is 400 nanometers to 700 nanometers. So the rest is unknown. That's what scares us. So I can understand why people are afraid, because when that report comes out and everyone they know that had the same prognosis, or right, they all end up in a place where we don't want to go. We're all scared to go if you're not in Yahusha, right? So the point is, this is the beauty of being able to understand our human body, because it somehow it gives you understanding of what Yahuwah has given us within ourselves, right? And when we understand more and more of this, right, it really does help overcome fear. Not completely, it is a journey, right? So we overcome it in, a moment by moment, right? So, and this is part of, I guess, the Philadelphia Assembly Overcomer Promise that we were looking at last Tuesday. It really is, in a nutshell, and let me know if you agree, it's really the Melchizadik call. Don't you guys see that? For the Philadelphia Assembly, it's the Melchizadik call. It's like, right? It's like an invitation. Yes, brother.
So no, I agree with that. It's a Melchizadik call, and the entire messages to the churches was the transferal from the Aaronic to the Melchizadik.
Yes, you see,
and read Book of Hebrews tell you that.
Yes, you want me to go to Hebrews, brother?
You could, because there it says you're no longer after the order of Aaron, but after the order of Melchizedek. And he kind of back up what he's saying by talking about the frailty or the limitedness of the Aaronic compared to the Melchizedek, which is eternal and has no beginning, no end, because Mashiach existed from eternity. So he was tying up the two priesthoods with their role models, you see. The role model of the Aaronic priesthood was Aaron, who was just a regular human being and died and had to offer physical sacrifices for his sins, whereas Yahusha, on the other hand, was eternal, had no sins. So therefore, he didn't have to do all that stuff. So he could afford to do what he did for us, to liberate, pay for, and execute the office without having to die or sacrifice something for himself.
Hallelujah. Praise Yahweh. See, and that's why, and if, thank you for that comment, brother. And it's like, if we want to have an appreciation of what this Melchizadik call is, right? We, and it's spread out. It's really so the subtlety of it. It's pretty subtle, but it's all over the scripture. I remember some of my earlier, when I was learning the scriptures back then, they always say that this is a mystery. It's a mystery. It's this mysterious character that appeared to Abraham, and then kind of you don't see until Psalms 110, and then it appears again, right? So it's like this mystery, and that's for a while, that's how I saw it. But more and more I see that, it's just semantics. It really is all over the scripture, right? So,
right.
And why do we say that we think that the church or the Philadelphia assembly is a Melchizedek call? Because look at this, Revelation 3:10. Because thou hast kept the word of my patience, I also will keep thee from the hour of temptation, which shall come upon all the world to try them that dwell upon the earth. So it's like, out of all the seven letters, this is the only assembly that this was given a promise to keep them from the hour of temptation, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you look at the first Melchizedek in the story in the narration, the narrative in the Garden of Eden, where man once walked in the cool of the day with Yahweh, right? In the garden story, we see that word garden in Hebrew is enclosure, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So Adam and Eve later, they were in an enclosed place. So they were being protected. And the question is, from what? Right?
Oh.
So we have to expand a little bit more our imagination on how, the first living being was before the fall, right? And so we looked at the Philadelphia Overcomer Promises last Tuesday, and there's just a few things that kind of jumped out to me, jumped off the pages. So if you look at the letter construct, right, do you see that there is the 5 I wills that Yahusha said to them? Right?
Where you're going.
And if you're familiar with your, know that a Satan said the very same thing in Isaiah 14:12 in his rebellion, that rebellion. And he said 5 I wills, right? But now if you look at the I in Revelation for this assembly, Revelation 3:8 says, thou hast kept my word and has not denied my name. That is the first, for thou hast kept, and I think I have that at the top there. I also will keep thee. So that's the first I.
Yes.
This is at the end of the construct of the letter. It's, I will make a pillar in the temple of my Yahweh. I will write upon him the name of my Yahweh. I will write the name of the city which is in New Jerusalem, which cometh down out of heaven from Yahweh. And I will write upon him my new name. Do you see that? Then that's Yahusha speaking, right? Do you see that? It's a counter thing to what, it's a reversal of what the first rebellion was, or how it transpired, right, brother?
Exactly. The entire mission of Mashiach was to reverse the sin that, well, you see, all to a Christian, to a believer of today who don't have the depths of knowledge in their research, they think man's problem was only Adam's fall or his rebellion or his disobedience. But there is so much more to the depravity of man that hinges on 2 other main events, Genesis 6 and Genesis 11. And these 2 events combined with the Genesis 3 event is what Yahushua came to reverse. This was his ministry.
That's right.
And we can focus on Adam and Eve.
That's right. That's right. And it's one story, right, brother? It's just expounded in several countless colors. It's like, and it's one story. It just, we just have to see. We have to ask Yahweh to let us see, right? And the more we see, the more we fall in love with our Creator, our Redeemer, the rock of our salvation, right? Beautiful. And the other thing that I noticed here too is that ownership, that possessive. You see that? My Yahuwah, my word, my. Why? Again, set apartness, right? Adam and Eve, they were enclosed. They were set apart from what? Interesting, right? And I just want to, so we can appreciate why Yahusha is very using words of possessiveness here. I just want to play this little bit of clip here. So you've probably seen this, but I just want you guys.
Wow, I'm just in awe right now. But I first would like to thank God.
First of all, we'd like to thank God.
First of all, I'd like to thank God.
I would like to thank God because she makes everything possible.
I just want to thank God. I just like to thank God.
I'd like to thank God. I'd like to thank God. I'd like to thank God.
We want to thank God.
God.
And what else is there to say? Of course. Thank God.
God is good. I am very grateful to Him. I don't know what's going on, but thank you, Jesus and God.
I want to say thank you so much, not only to God, but to Jesus. Because, I wouldn't be here without Him. He's really blessed me, put me in this position. So
I think you get the gist of what I'm trying to say here. Right? I mean, can you tell the difference between those movie stars or whatever and the church today?
No.
Right? So of course Yahusha had to be extremely specific.
Yes.
Right, brother?
Exactly.
It's like you can't. Anyway, so that I just wanted to, for you to appreciate why, let's have a renewed appreciation to the name we use, and we're not going to go legalistic about it. We're not going to if that Yahweh hasn't impressed that upon someone yet, they haven't grown into maturity yet. I mean, should they curiosity spark out of them, then we share, right? Why? But we watch that, and it's like these people who are stars are just using the exact same title, right? And so what I wanted to so using that, because we're going to go back a little bit to Genesis again, because we want to just take a look at the first Melchizadik of the scripture, right? And right away in Genesis 1, we're all familiar with this. We don't need to probably go there, but we already know from Genesis 1, I think verse 2, we already know that the Spirit of Yahweh is already present, right?
Yeah.
The Spirit of Yah is hovering or is brooding the face of the waters, right? And so we can see that same thing in John, where he says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with Yah, and the Word was with Yah. I should have changed that, right? And all things were made through him, and without him nothing was made that was made. In him was life, and the life was the light of man, right? So if we look at the Spirit, right? We think of energy. I don't mean to just put it all in that word, but it's so much more. But for us to comprehend, let's just think of energy for a second, right? And I keep saying this, but I just don't make sure I don't misquote it like I've done a couple of times already. The modern English word science is actually from the Latin word scientia. That's what I kept saying. And it is from the ancient Greek word knowledge, was episteme. So episteme is the Greek word that's most often translated as knowledge as we know today. And if you really look at the way Yahusha taught, he taught in science, right? like even in Psalm 78, there's a thing there that says, "My people, hear my teaching, listen to the words of my mouth. I will open my mouth with a parable. I will utter hidden things." You see that word, hidden things? So now we go to quantum physics. What's the definition of quantum physics? Fundamental theory in physics which describes at the smallest scales of energy levels of atoms and subatomic particles. Can you see subatomic?
Yes.
Hidden, right? So, you know, and quantum, in the quantum world, when they do their experimental findings in space, they, you know, they see that, you know, reality is what you make it, in a nutshell, what the quantum scientists are saying. And I just thought it's interesting to, again, we're going back to Genesis here, when Yahweh spoke and the sound of his voice hit the water, right? The face of the water. Light came about, right? Light came about. And I want to then, just so you can see that this is also scientifically proven. I think I've shown this in the past, but I'm going to play it again briefly.
Was in a darkened room. I was transfixed to look at this spherical flask of fluid. And you look into the center, and in the center, see a glowing blue-purple light, which could be seen with the unaided eye.
Look at that.
It looked like a star in the heavens.
You see that?
Yes.
They're admitting themselves.
Star in a jar, a tiny spot of bright light contained in a flask of liquid.
They admit that, but they wouldn't publish it, you know.
So just so you know exactly what. Look at.
When a sound wave is passed through a small bubble inside a flask of liquid, and this sound wave makes.
This is very interesting.
Look at that. And then it blow. Look.
It collapses.
Wow.
No, that is TV, not yours.
The vapor molecules trapped inside the bubble slam together and heat up so much that the bubble.
You want to put volume on ours, you have to go.
And light.
Wow. Look at that. You see that?
Yeah.
Put a little more volume.
I don't know how. There we go. Pardon? So I thought we'd all appreciate that video a little bit because, yes, you were saying something, brother or sister?
No, she wanted to hear a little louder, but it's okay.
Okay. I will make this video available so you can see it for yourself. It's a short video. But like, what I was trying for us to appreciate is that the sound frequency, the sound wave hitting the flask full of water, and the reaction that took place and the end product was light. How consistent is that with our scripture, right? And I wasn't that interesting, brother, that even they themselves said, "Hey, it looks like the stars in heaven." Why is it that there are stars in heaven? Is space just vacuum or empty space, or is there actually water above the firmament? Right?
Yes.
It's like these little things we have to. This is what I mean when we explore a little bit of science. There's just a greater appreciation of it, right?
Yeah.
You were going to say something, brother?
No. It's amazing that even in this little experiment they just did on there, that they don't want to admit that there is a firmament up there, that there's water above. They don't want to admit that.
Right. Yep. It's like, what color is it? Blue. Oh. Okay. I wonder why. Have you seen what color a pool has? It's blue too. Or not a pool, sorry. It's the oceans, right? But like, so, you know.
Even the water in the swimming pool, they paint the bottom of the pool white but when they fill it up, the water looks blue.
That's right.
It reflects. Yeah.
That's right. And I don't know if you've seen that on YouTube once, but I came across it once. But they were trying to show that stars in the heavens are simple. They're basically light that's in water. And they show this experiment where they put a pool of distilled, like pure water in this pool, and they start to turn on this water inside the pool, and you see the same movement of this light, and you compare it to, you zoomed in to stars in heaven, it's the exact same movement, right?
Oh.
Very interesting stuff. Very interesting stuff. So I just, for us to appreciate that, because we're going to go back a little bit to Eden, because it really is a picture of the coming kingdom, New Jerusalem.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
right, it really is. And we can draw reference to what the scripture says about in 1 Corinthians 14:40, because it says that there are celestial bodies and there are terrestrial bodies. But the glory of the celestial is one and the glory of the terrestrial is another.
Yeah.
So I'm going to propose to you that Adam and Eve had to have celestial bodies when they were in Eden, to allow them to dwell with Yahweh and be able to walk in the cool of the day with Yahweh, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
right. This, we have to be open to that, right? We can't assume, or we can't conclude that Adam and Eve is just like us. No, they were very different. And we know that we talked about it last Tuesday, that space is primarily made up of oxygen, hydrogen, nitrogen, and helium, right? So they weren't, I don't believe they were immortals. They were conditionally immortal. Like they were conditional immortals because they had access to the tree of life. That's what made them immortal. But the minute that they lost that access, they lost the privilege of eternal immortality. Again, right? So the difference between heaven and earth, we talked about it before, just a recap, is simply carbon, because carbon is the key ingredient for most of life on earth. And our cells are made up of molecules, we know that, right? Molecules are made up of particles that are made up of atoms. And look at the word atoms and Adam. You think that's a coincidence? Atoms, Adam. Paul says Adam is a type of Yahusha. That's an interesting comment that Paul makes. But look at atom, okay? So someone thought that atom was the smallest thing possible. And then until modern science came, I forget the year, I think 1920s or something like that, they discovered that there's an even smaller matter than atom. And so what is it? Basically, we're talking now, these are the subatomic particles, which we know as protons, neutrons, and electrons. So atom is made up of 3 tiny kinds of particles. Protons, neutrons, and electrons. Just think for a second. And I'm doing this word play, atoms, Adam. Adam, even in atomic structure, there's made up of 3 parts. Could this be a hint of our makeup as well as man, right? We are made up of spirit, soul, body. Just, you can see, you can draw a bit of parallels, right? So specifically though, carbon atoms are made up of what I described earlier, protons, neutrons, and electrons. So we are made up of hydrogen, we have water, we are nitrogen, oxygen, and carbon. That's our primary makeup if you were to compare it to space or heaven, right? And we talked about it last Tuesday. Amazing stuff that if we simply made that, that, because already we're 75% celestial or made up of the same makeup as a space. We're just missing that 25%, which is the carbon, right? And if you were to replace that, the same, the nitrogen, and if we take the name of Yahweh, hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, I explained that in more detail in the last discussions. which is, by the way, nitrogen is all colorless, odorless, invisible gas. So in other words, if we replace that atomic makeup of us, we now match 100% of what Yahuwah's makeup is. So in other words, we are then we are able to dwell with Yahuwah, right? And we had a brief, I don't know if Anna's still on the line, but we were talking about this. Anna, are you still there earlier? Right, brother, you were going to say?
You dwell in the secret place of the Most High.
That's right. That's right. That secret place is the garden, the new Jerusalem in us, right? Like we are to be walking, we have to be walking. May your kingdom come and your will be done on earth, like right now, as it is in heaven, right? So we can learn how to journey back and learn how to abide and dwell in the garden. So are you walking in the cool of the day, in the garden, in the secret place of the Most High is the question. Have you asked a Christian that lately? Hey, are you walking, right? Are you walking in the garden in the cool of the day with Yahweh? Right? Ask that question. Right? So it's like, how is it possible? Well, yeah, it's, it is. It's actually, it's his will for us. It's his desire for us. Right? Yeah. So our bodies are basically carbon suits, if you think about it. It's like an avatar of who we are that allows us to dwell in this realm, this physical realm. And this is interesting. I was telling this to Anna this morning. Interestingly, if you look at carbon, it is an element that is known to trap light. It traps light or heat. Just think for a second, okay? And this ability to absorb and re-emit infrared energy is what makes the CO2 an effective heat-trapping greenhouse gas. Okay? So, and I say all that, and you can read the rest, but I say that because I stumbled upon like an article online. It says that carbon, and if you wonder, how did carbon originate kind of thing. So they say, according to the Swinburne Center for Astrophysics and Supercomputing, they say that carbon forms in the belly of stars in a reaction called the triple alpha process. Carbon formed from an accumulation of helium in older stars that have burned most of their hydrogen. And the end results are 6 protons, 6 neutrons, 6 electrons, which make up the carbon atom. Wow, look at that. Okay, look at that. So remember we were talking about the science on Yod Hey Wah Hey here?
Yes.
Burned out hydrogen. Just think for a second, right? And, you think Adam, I've talked about this in my other discussions on YouTube, but I say, Adam was made because he's a type of Yahusha. He had a message. He was a Melchizadik. He had a purpose. He was going to be the sent one to I call them day 6 people. But the point I'm saying is, Adam, he was, what's the word I was going to say? Oh my, can you believe that? I lost my trail of thoughts, but I'll get to that when it comes back to me. But, here, I think I remember now. So if he was a messenger, right? And they fell. So in the Bible, we know that angels are messengers. I mean, there's different, it's a job title, and specifically an angel, there's different types of them. Angel is a messenger, right? So you can really say that Adam was a fallen angel. I'm just saying that. I know that's a very controversial thing to say, but carbon forms in the belly of stars. I was just thinking that. But anyway, so just, and it's just a wordplay. I'm not saying it's just the wordplay, just to add a bit of layer to our imagination, right? But if you look at a carbon, this is kind of how it is. It has 6 protons, 6 neutrons, and 6 electrons. Did you catch that? 6, 6, 6.
I got it. First.
Oh no, Suzanne, don't go there. Revelation 18:3. You paying attention? It says, "Here is wisdom." Look at that, man. When somebody says, "Here is wisdom," I think we want to pay attention, right? Let him who has understanding calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of man. So the number of 666 is not really, calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of man. Huh. And what I'm saying here, there's a point why I'm pointing this out to you. If you are in love with your body today, if you love your carbon suit, your avatar suit, then you probably want to think twice. Because the scripture says corruptible flesh cannot inherit the kingdom of Yahweh.
Hallelujah.
Right? Yeah. So let's not get caught up. And this is good lesson for me. In the last how many years, I have spent less and less on cosmetics, on things that I put on my face, that thinking that I would look more prettier. But I find that the less I put, the better my face can breathe, the better I can let my skin eliminate whatever toxins that it has to encounter on a moment by moment basis. It's designed that way, this layer of our skin is designed to get rid of bad stuff, right? So Adam and Eve put on carbon element on their body, so that retains or traps light. So now let's look at the science of biophotons. Our biophotons are not visible with the naked eye. So if you look at this guy here, and if you take the special whatever they use cameras, you can see that this guy emits light. You see that? And the brighter it is, actually, the brighter you are in your biophoton, the healthier you are. So when you see, when I guess that's called alkaline, when you're an alkaline state, then you're brighter. When you're an acidic state, then you're obviously not, right? So I like to look at it this way too. Imagine a fire pit and the embers in it. Think of us like a spark from the burning pile, right? That we came from a divine, like we came from a greater light. And it's like this carbon suit that we have, it acts like a container of that divine spark that we all have. And me and Red had a discussion one night, because I remember these little things, these little talks that we have at the kitchen table, because most of the times we're debating about science and all that. But brother, I just want to tell you, he's so sold over the things of Yahweh. Like like his Shabbat updates every Shabbat. He is in the school, life science, but he is seeing the opposite. So the time spent debating all those things in the kitchen is paying off. But when I told him, Redmond, it's like when you were born, you started off as a little spark. And that's true. They actually were able to capture at the moment of conception. These scientists in Israel and one in University of Michigan, they were able to capture conception. What happens at the moment of conception? There's like a little spark that takes place. So think of it as kind of like a little fireworks. It's already a celebration that's taken place when you were conceived. And your purpose in life is to find your way back to that bigger, larger, greater light. That's what I said to him, and it resonated. Oh yeah. He's like, yeah. Right? Does that make sense?
Yes, of course.
So if we focus on the light, right? The word light in our scripture is Phos, or photons, right? If Adam's soul was, so we know that Adam, he is the first living soul. And the way he was composed is he was taken from the dirt out from, it was the dust from outside Eden, or God, right? And then he was formed by the hands of Yahweh, and the breath of life entered his nostrils, and that is the Yah spirit. And so he was incorruptible. He had incorruptible flesh, right? He had full consciousness of who Yahweh is because he had that breath of the life of Yah spirit breathed upon him. So that's why when we go in Genesis, we see that before the fall, there was no mention of blood, right? In Genesis 2, you can read it carefully. It just says, it's flesh and bone.
Flesh and bone of my bone.
Exactly. When Eve was taken from his side. And we know that he's made in the likeness of Yahweh. And Psalm 104 says that Yahweh you cover yourself with light as with garment. So this is a description of that we can comprehend of what Yahweh is like, just a little bit, right? A comprehension. So Adam's skin.
One second.
Yes.
In John 20, 21, I think 20, when Mashiach appeared the second time when Thomas was in the room, he said the very same thing.
Absolutely.
See, a spirit doesn't have flesh and bones.
That's right. Hallelujah. See? That's right.
Yeah.
And I wonder if it's here. Yeah, I know. Oh, here we go. I think here. It's Thomas, right? Doubting Thomas, was it? Doubting Thomas.
Yeah.
Right. I know what you're saying, brother. We'll bring that. Reach your hand here.
Yeah.
Yes, so definitely. So after the resurrection, right? Like when Yahusha describes himself, definitely there's no blood. And we know where his blood, he had to take his blood to the Holy of Holies in heaven, right? So very interesting study that you want to endeavor in for sure. But I wanted us to just take a look at what it was like before the fall. It was like exactly what Brother Shem has mentioned, that Yahusha's post-resurrection state was, right? Adam's skin, his garment of light, here's the interesting part, right? We know, here we go. Before I say that, I guess science has observed that light has a dual nature. Why? And I think I mentioned this last time. It's both a particle and a wave, right? And its essential theory was further evolved from electromagnetics into quantum physics, and Einstein believed light is a particle, photon, and the flow of photons is a wave. So in other words, light has dual nature, and it can be a particle and a wave at the same time. So Adam had the same thing, right? His skin back then was both a particle and a wave at the same time. And that's how he was able to, to dwell in the enclosure, right? And we know that sun gives photon, and that, again, both a particle and a wave until you choose how to measure it. So what's interesting about photons or light is that it has no mass. Unlike an electron, photon has no mass. So, which means, okay, it has the ability to be everywhere at the same time.
Hallelujah.
Look at that, right? So the word of Yahuwah, and if you look at both wave and particle at the same time, the word of Yah is a double-edged sword, written and spoken word, particle and wave, and have power over heavens and earth. It's like, it's like it indwells. It's like a union of heaven and earth, right? Because we are particles, right? And in the heavens, in space, you can see it as waves, right? So the physics of spirit, I guess you can say, is that these are tiny little particles of light that animates protons, neutrons, electrons. And do you know that when it comes to subatomic particles, their means of communication is light. This is how they communicate, right? And it's the same thing here when it comes to our cell skins, right? Or which is called the cell membrane or the brain of the cell, right? The cell membrane So if you look at if you imagine a cell, the layer or the skin of the cell, the outer part of the cell, is called a cell membrane. And that membrane, it functions as an interface between the inner and outer worlds of the cell. So it is a liquid crystal semiconductors with gates and channels. So it uses its natural charge to allow signals to enter the cell or vice versa, right? So in other words, the cell-to-cell communication and DNA has something to do with light, biophotons that are emitted in our bodies, right? And these biophotons can be released it can be released through mental intention. You want to structure water, you pray over it.
Hallelujah.
Your intention, the biophotons that you will release, the frequency that you release when it hits that liquid. Remember we saw it earlier on the YouTube? What happens? It emits light, right? So we don't see it with our physical eyes, but in the subatomic particles, this is happening. This is my point. That's why when, I don't know about you, but for the longest time, like, okay, I'm praying over my food, I'm praying over this water, but you cannot deny that there is this little voice that you hush because you don't want to believe it. But there's this little voice inside of you that says, yeah, how is that possible, Suzanne? Right? Yeah, fine. And if you're honest with yourself, if you learn how to listen to your self-talks, you actually have a lot of voices happening in you. You guys notice that? You will catch yourself. You're saying one thing and your mind is saying something else. Your subconscious is saying something else.
Yes.
And you know what? The design of Yahweh, the perfect us, perfect you design, is for your soul and spirit to be one. In fact, your soul to be subject to the spirit. And then so that the spirit, we are connected through Yahweh, right? So Yahweh can download information only through our spirit, not our soul. We have to see that. That's why the scripture says, the Yahweh seeks those who will worship him in spirit and in truth. And then the scripture says the Torah is for the conversion of the soul. There's a difference, right? So it's like through the spirit, Yahweh can minister to us and download wisdom and knowledge and understanding through our spirit. And our job is to receive that and train our soul. Because what happens is when our soul is fully engaged and trained, the body, which is made up of motor sensors or automatic stuff, it will just do what the soul says. It will just act upon it.
Can I say something?
Yes, please. Praise.
It's very interesting what you're saying. When we think of what Shaul says, that he was caught up into the third heaven, we know there are three heavens. God, Yahweh, resides in the third heaven. That's where Paul was caught up.
Yes.
When Satan was cast out of heaven, he was cast out of heaven. That's where the qualities powers up. And then first heaven,
brother, 1 second. I would love to hear what you're saying is very, very interesting. I know it is, but can you, for some reason, you're cutting off. 1 second. I'm going to see. Okay, I think everyone else is on mute. So, brother, maybe say it again, and hopefully you're not cutting off. Go ahead, if you can repeat it, please.
We, as you were mentioning, you said that we have a spirit,
yes,
and became a soul, and we have a body.
Yes.
So we have tripartite.
Absolutely, yes.
To correspond, when Mashiach was here, he said, very interesting. I am the way.
Yes.
I am the life.
That's right.
Of the Mishkan. We as are that man.
Wow.
And we are that Melchizadik. Our spirit wants third heaven with Yahuwah. Our soulish relates to second heaven. Our body. First heaven.
That's right. That's awesome. Yes. Did that just come to you now?
No, I know this for a while now.
Okay, it's like, wow, that's a good one, brother. That's excellent.
Can you repeat it, Susan?
So what brother is saying is, there's a little bit of cutoff, but I think I understand. See, beyond language, I think I understand what brother is saying. So when Yohanan was had an what's the word, like when he was caught up in the third heaven, right, brother?
Paul.
Oh, Paul. I thought it was John. Okay, so it's Paul. And so basically, that's why Yahusha says he is the way, the truth, and the life, right? So the spirit man is what is in the heaven. Is that right, brother? Is that what you're saying?
Right. Yeah.
And then the soul part is what is in the second heaven, right? And obviously our body is in this physical earth. And what's interesting about what you said, brother, is if you look at the authority of the dark, of evil ones, of darkness, right? They've been able to hijack the second heaven, right?
Yes, that's why they have the power.
Right. And so the point is, if you parallel that with the soul, that's why you do not want to be, and Brother Shem used the term soulish. You do not want to operate in the soul realm only, because the soul realm is very, for lack of a better word, hijackable. Sorry, it's just not set apart. The prince of the power of the air, it says, right, brother?
Yes.
So if I played this video where, all these people on Hollywood and all these movie stars, look at this, movie stars. Do you think that is for a reason, like that's just random when they say, they call themselves movie stars? They are, they are worshiping the fallen angels.
Yes.
And they dominate in the second heaven. That's why Yahusha has to cleanse, including right, second heaven, and I believe maybe parts of the third heaven too, right, brother? I remember seeing something like it also needed. Well, Yahusha did that already when he sprinkled his blood, before Mary touched him, or he says, "Don't touch me," right, kind of thing. But when this understanding is super good, because what happens is when you understand and you're able to identify what is spirit, soul, you will be able to neutralize soulish things right away. When you recognize, when you're listening to your self chatters and you know what is part of you that has been there because of learned habit, or if you grew up in an occult environment and you in the Catholic, whatever it is, because that makes up that's why I say our brain is a good typology of it as well, because the spirit is the neocortex. The neo means new, paleo means old, that old self. Cortex means covering or covenant. So it's like, it's like we need to put off this old man so we can put on the new man, right? And this reptilian brain, this is just an avatar. I mean, I don't want to, minimize it, but this can be overcome easily if once it just receives instructions from the soul realm, from the paleocortex. But what happens in the state of fear is that, we cut off. In the state of fear, paleocortex is running the show and wants nothing to do with the neocortex. So now you're running on emotion. So that's why on the weekend when we went there and visit family and they have a potential bad news that hasn't been confirmed yet, They're all running out of fear. They're reacting fear-based. So they was ready to buy a machine that's a water machine that's $4,000. And the premise is this will structure water. And I'm like, listen, everything that your machine is doing, your body is capable of doing. Why would you spend $4,000? You want to spend money on water? Get a distiller. Purify it the way Yahweh has intended it to be. Purified. Right? So, and this is what I was saying. So the word of Yahweh is, in Greek, the word father is patar. I think we looked at that, right? And it's generator. So he's the generator of the word, the signal. And that word is Yahusha. And that is the signal that is being sent to our spirit, the neocortex, right?
Hallelujah.
Praise Yahweh, right? It's like, so let's see what I have here. So for us we have to realize that we have this earthly terrestrial bodies, and this is not going, I mean, if you are going to be an earth dweller in Revelation, you probably have a terrestrial body that's modified, that's that's what's the word, like hybrid. Right, brother? So, but still, that is, we know that they are going to reap the consequences by, they want to die, they can't die, they're hiding in the rocks and they can't die, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, so this corruptible, we must put on incorruption. This mortal body must put on immortality, right? And we have this already. Death is swallowed up in victory by the finished work of our Mashiach. So one thing that I wanted to put in the carbon that we were talking about, right? Just like the paleocortex, where the prince of the power of the air, the fallen entities are kind of dominating for the time being, right? It's the same thing. We have to recognize it's the same thing with our fleshly bodies, our carbon-based bodies, because we have this carbon base that we have is very much dependent on the five senses that we have, right? And we have to understand that the enemy can hijack this as well, and has hijacked it actually, especially in 1900s when some of the angels have been released from the chains in, right? When a lot of the discoveries surfaced when it comes to fake light and power grids and all that stuff, that's when they really started to.
Audience.
Yes. Say that again, brother.
You don't to clarify for your audience, tell them watcher than to be
yes. The what? Yeah, I wonder why Brother Hashem is getting cut off. But yes, yes, you're right. The watcher, the part of the watchers that have been chained up in the deepest part of Sheol. I forget the name. Was it Tartarus? Tartarus, right? And based on a prophetic calculation, I think, of timeline, right, brother?
Yes, from the days of
right. That there's
and then we'll begin.
Right. I think
around 1600 after Adam, so 440 years, and current 19th century.
Right. So brother is basically dating back all the way from Genesis, right, brother?
Yeah.
And if you calculate that and you arrive at the 1900s, and that's when a lot of these breakthroughs, these discoveries that really changed the us into an industrial culture.
Yeah.
And so a lot of this is where we're going to hit. This is where we're gonna take this next Tuesday. We're gonna go back and say, this is what we're so familiar with. This is how, the 24/7, light everywhere all the time, eat whenever you want. All these things is actually doing us so much harm. So we're going to, and I know Sister Rita, you've done some research on this as well, and I'm sure you chime in next Tuesday as well. But the point I'm saying is the carbon base that we have, that we are made up of, we have to recognize that the reason why you can hear, the reason why you can see, is because there's a medium. So what that medium is your carbon suit. So, for example, sound. The physical manifestation of sound here on Earth needs a medium. So sound waves are known as longitudinal. I don't even know if I said that right. Because the medium in which they travel, air, water, or whatever else, vibrates in the same direction as the wave itself. And the oscillations that carry energy from one place to another, this is how you're able to hear sound, right? So anything that you can hear with your physical ears is something that is can be hijacked by the enemy, is my point. So that's why Luke says the kingdom of Yahweh is not to be observed. So even in Revelation, he who has an ear, let him hear what the Ruach is saying. Can you hear the voice of the Ruach? Like audibly? Can you? No,
Yes, I did, man.
Right? It's not just talking about physical ears. Yeah, because Yahweh, even in the areas that have been hijacked by the enemy, he still dominates it. Like that's why he calls, for the foolishness of preaching. Why does Yahusha calls preaching foolishness? Because we are like sheep. We're not the brightest, right? So he actually will descend on our level to reach us. But we have to recognize that these things, right? So look at this. We talked about the visible light, the vastness of the spectrum of light, and we only can perceive less than 1% of it. So when Adam and Eve fell, their eyes were opened and they realized that they were naked. So something happened. When they say, it's more like I heard a scientist said before that if how I was saying that the spectrum of light, we can only see less than 1% of it. They are saying that if that ability to see and perceive the spectrum of light increases to more than 1% or greater, the greater it is, the impact of that, the ramifications of that actually will have a molecular impact. It will change us, is my point. That's how sensitive it is. So we're Yahweh, by his mercy and grace in this fallen world, I believe he only lets us see less than 1%. Can you imagine? Can you imagine if he allows us to see more? So what do you think? I think I heard Richmond share once a story about a preacher he heard that said, if we could only see the demonic activity that takes place on a daily basis, right? If we can only see, we're not seeing the real world. We are just in this celestial temporary world that we live in, right? So it's amazing stuff. By his grace and mercy, he only allowed us to see less because he wants us to walk by faith and not by sight, right?
Yeah.
And when they realized that they were naked, if you read the text in Genesis, after the fall is when they started to have sweating, when they started to procreate, when they, the blood issue came. So the point I'm saying is back then they did have skins of light. Before the fall, their ability to interact didn't necessarily need a medium. So when Adam and Eve were speaking with, or when Yahweh was in the garden with them, their conversation is not the same way that you and I are having a conversation today. right? Just like we were saying earlier, the light is the means of communication between the cells. In the DNA, in the cell membrane, they need light to communicate, right? So, so this is a little bit of a understanding what it's like to be in the spirit world, the way our cells communicate. So, the reason why people have diseases, right, is because just like what Luke says, if there's any part dark in you, then your whole body is dark. So what happens is if there is a little bit of power outage in parts of your body, there's no light, then there's parts of your cells that are not communicating, right?
Yes.
So this is what happens. This is how disease manifests, because the light, the power source in parts of the cells have been removed. So we have to understand that. And it's the same way in the spirit realm, right? If we're not connected to Yahweh, if we are in rebellion, if we are not in tune to his will, into the center of his will for us, we are finding ourselves on a dark path, right? And I just have a little bit of, I think you've heard me say this before. The word or in Hebrew is light. You know that, brother, right? Light. The word or, and the same skin, the same word in Hebrew for skin is also or. And there's just a little bit of subtlety difference. But definitely based on even based on science and all this stuff, we know that Adam was a light being. He possessed a soul. He was the first living soul. And, he was the first Melchizadik. And if you look at the garments of high priest here, look at this. Why I was sharing this with someone. Why is the high priest, why do they have layers of clothing, right? So they have the white clothing that they put on, right? And then they put on this garment of shiny outfit. So, and it speaks of Yahusha's righteousness before you can even progress through the tabernacle, through the three parts of the tabernacle. You can't do that without the righteousness of Yahusha. So it is definitely like you said earlier, brother, Yahusha is the way, the truth, and the life. It's a progression. So the way to him is through Yahusha's righteousness. There's no other way. That sort of signifies that plain white linen that a high priest would wear. And I think on the Day of Atonement, this is the only thing he wears, right?
Yeah.
Right? And then he puts on this shiny garment. So if you look at the shiny garment, what does it remind you of when you see shiny things? It's light. It's like, right? It's like it's like a type of what it's like to be in oneness with Yahweh, to be a Melchizadik, to be a high priest of the Most High, is to put on this beautiful outfit, right? So I want to pause here and see what you guys want to bring to the surface, and maybe I'll go on mute, brother, if you're going to share something, so to help with the audio.
Okay. What I wanted to say, in that garment you just showed, that's a message I brought last Day of Atonement. This white clothes represents the purity that the high priest should have when he wants to make intercession for you, because if he has sin, he is not fit to do anything for you. First, he has to cleanse himself. So he offers a bull for himself to atone for his sin. And then he does the things with the goats and stuff. And after all that, he takes that white clothes off, he puts it aside, and then he dresses up in this nice shiny clothes and come out. And it represents the work of the Messiah that he was going to do, that we haven't in the churches haven't ever got it at all, because we don't even keep the Day of Atonement, so we don't know what these two sets of garments are all about. But now that we have been exposed to the truth of these garments, we understand when Paul says that we must be robed in his righteousness. This is the one you have on the right side of my screen as I'm looking at it. That's what the high priest would put on after he has made the people righteous on the Day of Atonement. So now he is robed and all that sin is taken care of. So now he is ready to bless the people. Now he could bless. So this is something that Mashiach accomplished in one shot. He came, he died, rose from the dead, and then took the blood, which Aaron used to put on the mercy seat. He took that blood right up into heaven and put it on the mercy seat once and for all, giving us a complete, clean bill of health where Yahweh is concerned. So now we could come boldly to the throne of Yahweh because of this thing that transpired with Yahusha. But one more thing I want to say. I don't know if everybody heard when I was talking about the tripartite being. Your soul man is made to operate in the second heaven. Your spirit man is made to operate in the third heaven. And your body man is made to operate in the last heaven, the first one here. So the carnal man cannot comprehend the things of the third heaven where Yahweh is. Only the spirit man could comprehend that. Therefore, the soul part, which corresponds to the second heaven, is always the part that gets the mankind, the human man, in the trouble, because that part does not receive light from Yahweh. That is the part that gets the man in trouble, that soulish part. And then the body just carries out that instruction that the soulish part imparts to the body. But if we are tuned right into that, tapped into that source of the third heaven, and we have the connection which Yahusha is, he is that Jacob's ladder. And if we have that source connected at all times, we'll always be drawing from that spout of the third heaven. Then we could walk over and have victory over the darkness. That's it.
Praise Yahuwah. Praise. I love it. I love it. And brother, I love that you expounded in the Day of Atonement, and you were talking about the things that the high priest have to do, the animal sacrifices, right? And even with we were talking about earlier how we have to recognize that this carbon base, this corruptible flesh that we have, we shouldn't be in love with it, right? Because this is not the real us, in other words, right? But this is why I bring this up. And I kind of, I was waiting to see how I'm going to nicely wove this into the conversation, but I think you opened it up. Because I don't want to, let me just, a disclosure, I don't believe in the evolution. Okay, I don't at all. I don't believe that we were, whatever. Just to make that clear. But I just find it interesting that the genome makeup of our skin, interestingly, is similar to mammals, right? And I think this is what the priesthood is trying to expound, trying to typify for us, is when the animal sacrifices, what it's trying to say to us, that there's this fallen part of us that needs to be offered up and to be burnt to ashes. It needs to be removed. Parts of it needs to be thrown outside, right? The skin and all that stuff. And some of it needs to be particularly taken, like the kidneys and the inner, and why is that, right? We have to recognize that. And I just have some data here. And this is not something that, that I'm making up, but like Like look at the human organism versus the mouse, and look at the chromosome number, right? We're 46, they're 40. This is a mouse. So so and this, if you're getting discouraged or getting upset that I'm saying that we're like animals, well, let me clarify. You'd have to listen to what my not, I don't want to say argument, but like what I'm trying to expound is in the garden. Yeah, when the serpent was when Eve listened to the serpent, something happened to them, is my point. Right?
Yes, yes.
And this is why the skin, the light that we once had is has been what's the word I'm looking for, very much minimized. So now they're called biophotons. Like it's operating, it's such a low level that you can't see it with the human eyes, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, and so just the point is the genetic information is very similar, right? So that's why I said don't fall in love. And so now look at the how the consumers, how much money is spent on this flesh that we have. Did you see that? I don't want to, I shouldn't laugh, but there's this news that came maybe recently where this retired lady, she was just walking at the mall, I think, and someone stopped her and ended up selling her with skincare products that is made up of gold. And she ends up spending, like, was it $50,000 or $80,000? Like something ridiculous. And she was being interviewed on CTV News, and then in the end, and then the media helped her gain some of her money back. But she was like, they were, oh, do you find that your wrinkles are gone? She's like, well, I'm looking at the mirror and I still look the same. It's like, it's just so we have to, the more we see this, right? Go ahead.
Before you close, I have something to share.
Yes, and I think I am good, brother, because I'm gonna take this for next Tuesday. So I'm gonna give you the floor. Yes.
Okay. Jocelyn is very familiar with this because I think she was the one that first sent this to me. But since I have gotten it, I have improvised on it by the Ruach HaKodesh. And it's called Blessing Your Body. This is the title that Josanna downloaded one day, I don't know how long ago. But she had given me a copy of this, and listening to you, I realized I used to say I bless my hair, teeth, and nails to be healthy and strong, because that's what was written on the sheet that she gave me. But recently, about, I don't know, 2-3 weeks ago, the Father stopped me from saying that. And he said, I want you to say, I command. I said, really? So I began doing that. And instead of saying I bless, I say, I command my skin to remain clear and free of wrinkles or disease. And I say, I command my hypothalamus to stay in physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual homeostasis. And I say, I command my limbic and synapses system to reroute the neural pathway of memory to line up with Yahuwah's thoughts and attitudes. I command my ears to hear clearly, physically, and spiritually. I command my eyes to see clearly, physically, and spiritually. And I could go on for 25 more things. But I want us to know something. We are the only being in the universe, those of us who are of the remnant Mishbachah, blood-bought children of the Almighty, set apart ones. We are the only being that has that authority to command things and see it happen, because we are doing it not on our own. We are doing this because we have been given the authority to do it. Mashiach says in Luke 10:19, behold, I give you authority to tread upon serpents and scorpions and over all the power of the enemy, and nothing by shall any means harm you. So we could operate in that atmosphere, and we have been robbed of that because we never taught that. That's what I want to tell you.
Praise Yahuwah. How powerful is that? And brother, if I can just add icing on top of what you said, whew, I love it. You know, they were trying to understand how our brain work, right? So they do like brain scans, right? So what they have determined is that before you make a conscious choice, you know how you were saying you have this prayer that you're reading, right? And recently you've elevated it to like command, right? Before, this is the beauty about it. Before your conscious awareness comes to surface in your brain, to a point where you're able to express it in words and say it out loud in prayer, right? You know that brain scans show that 300 milliseconds before that conscious thought comes to mind, because you're looking at your paper and you're reading it, before you even do that, there's already brain activity happening in your brain. There's already
Hallelujah.
There's an unconscious part of you. There's a non-conscious part of you that is anticipating what you're doing. So in other words, before that consciousness is expressed, the thought, it's already being unearthed in the soil of your mind. I don't know if that's a better way of explaining it. And I want to, recently we were watching this documentary, and this is a real guy. He's a doctor, right? And he's healthy. He's in fact he does the biking on the road. I don't know what you call those things, right? But one day he says this was his wake up call. So he was riding on the bike, and the next thing you know, he gets hit by a truck.
Oh boy.
So the end result of that is that, you know how we have 33 vertebrae in our spinal cord, right?
Yes.
He broke 6 out of 33.
Wow.
So, in other words, he is paralyzed. Parts of himself is paralyzed, and he's unable to do what he used to be able to do. And so he says, I'm a doctor. He says this, if this same case happens to my patient, I would recommend that they do an operation, go under the surgery to fix this, right? He says that. But because this is me, this is what he says. Because this is me, he says, I'm not going to do it. But listen to what he does next. So
what was his reason?
He knows there's this term that the medical community, they don't know what to call it. They don't know how to call it faith. They're not into spiritual things, so they call it placebo effect. Okay, but you know what he does?
Yes,
Right. So in the next, I forget. He gives a time frame. I think in total he did this exercise for maybe 4 or 8 weeks. Okay, that's a short period of time if you think about it. What he did, brother, as a doctor, is he started to imagine with full intent in his mind that he is fixing his vertebrae every single day, every day. He's imagining his intent, his thoughts. And we don't understand what the power of thought we have. And the thing is, his approach is like, you know what? I'm gonna do this because I don't want to be a vegetable for life. And so he had a purpose. He was encouraged. He had a purpose in mind, and he was determined. So in his helpless state, he couldn't move, and he didn't believe in the medical alternative. So he had no choice but to use the power of his mind. And sure enough, and he didn't even really believe it, but he did it anyways. But to his absolute surprise, I think 4 or 5 weeks, he was surprised because he started to show movement in areas that he couldn't move before. I'm not making this up. You guys watch it. The documentary is called Heal. But the point is, this is it's a secular movie. It's not Christian or anything like that. But I just highlight to you, the power of the way you are made, right? We all have this capability. And you know what? The other religious cult out there, the whatever, what do you want to call them, Buddhist, whatever, they have known this. And the problem is they give glory to a false god. Plainly put. But we need to take back what belongs to Yahweh. We need to give him the glory, and we need to vocalize this. We can't sit and stay put and be quiet and be timid about our faith. Science are catching up to what the word has been saying all along.
Yes.
So let's take and they're doing a good job on promoting this is us, or this is thank you to Buddha or whatever. Let's take what it belongs to our Yahweh and let's give glory to his name, right? So I just praise Yahweh. I think this was such a wonderful, wonderful time. And so I'm going to pause. And if there's anyone else that want to wrap up with their beautiful input, I will go and pause, or I will go on mute. Sister Yusana, it looks like you're itching to say something.
How about you, Ernesto? You don't want to say anything? No, listen, Susan, before you go back on.
This study is very interesting. Very, very interesting. Can you hear me?
No, it's very noisy.
Very noisy. It's like a train, a noisy train from 19th century.
Dad, I think Mom was making shake. It's a little too late. You shouldn't be having anything past 8 o'clock. Okay, go ahead, brother. You were going to say. It's not the train. It's the shake. It's a shaker.
Yeah, because of the...
It sounds like a train.
Yeah.
Hello.
Okay, I'm going to go on mute again. Go ahead.
Who is going to talk? Ernesto?
No, I'm fine. Thanks.
All right. Okay. I just want to make one more comment. This sections of, well, this is our third time now on this study. I like the trajectory in which you are going with this. I like the way you began and you going back to Genesis and back to Revelation and then taking parts from the middle, which is super good. But I just want to encourage you, because this is, for me, it's fascinating. I am just, because the scientific side of all this, I don't know too much about. I just want to say that right up front. I don't know too much about. But when the spiritual side, I have been blessed by the Father to know a lot of things from the spirit realm. So I see what you are saying from that point of view, from the spiritual point of view, and I could relate with a lot of what you are saying because I have studied that how we were created as you talk about Adam. I don't know how much, or I should say, I don't know how many in your audience will resonate with what you were saying about Adam. Was a special being. It wasn't the race of human called Adam. There's a distinction here, right? The human race called Adam, and this particular being we are talking about, this individual guy. He was a Melchizadik. He was the priest of the Most High that was supposed to enlighten the others. And that is something that very few people know. And I know you know that. I know Rich knows that. And it's important that we, before, as you continue going on this path, that we allow people to know that the reason that was so hard on Adam, it looks like harsh, because he was the Melchizedek, and he was responsible for, if you look at the Hebrew, the word ten, the garden, is there. That is the very same word translated watch. And obviously, we have the watchers that committed this great trouble and caused a lot of problems for mankind. The depravity of mankind, you ask any first, Second Temple period Jew this question, what caused the problem with man? And 99% of those people would give you a totally different answer from what you will get if you ask somebody today. Today, you ask them, they will say, oh, well, the fall, Adam. But you ask a Second Temple Jewish person, and they will say, well, it began with Adam, but then Genesis 6 was the major, and then Genesis 11. They will give you three distinct reasons why we are how we are. And that's the matrix, or the real context of the whole ministry of Yahusha was based on those three incidents. That's why he had to come. And coming in the form of human flesh, which was what that Melchizedek had, but glorified as it was, he demonstrated that on the Mount of Transfiguration. We know that he is called that by only one apostle, Shaul. How did he learn that? He learned it when he went up there, that this was the second Adam. That first Adam, first Melchizedek, he failed. And because of that failure, combined with the other two incidents, the other two incidents would have never happened had that Melchizedek kept his control, what was given to him by Yahweh. But because he did not, he fell asleep on the job, he wasn't watching. We had need for the second Adam. And only Shaul could explain that to us, because he had this taught to him by the master himself. That's all.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate always your input. Very, very valued. Thank you. And yes, I have gone in detail as to a little bit as to why I say the things I say. And, for those who are, interested, because I know that not a lot of people, like you said, know about this. So therefore, when they hear us talk like this, either they'll turn off because they think it's heresy. They don't take the time to listen to what we're trying to say. But for the diligent ones that want to labor, I propose there's other YouTube videos that I've uploaded that that kind of explains where I'm coming from. So, praise Yahweh. Thank you, brother. Thanks, Dad. Thanks, Yusana. Thanks, Sister Rita. And I know Anna, always she listens to this afterwards. There's my beautiful mother. Hello, mother.
Hi. Good to see you.
Mom, why don't you share the report of your doctor?
Yes, how are the reports?
Sorry for the noise.
She felt something in her heart. She felt something in her heart. The doctor was concerned that
every night.
Oh, a little too late, Mom. Should be before 8. We'll talk.
I know, I have to do it now.
Ah, okay. Yeah, but praise Yahweh. So the doctor was concerned. She had a little bit of complaint on her chest, on her heartbeat, the way her heart is functioning.
Everything fine, fine.
Yeah, they monitored her for 2 days, did some more testings, and in the meantime, my mom just stuck on the word of Yahweh and dependent on the healing in her meditation of the word. So the results came in, I think last week, was it?
Yeah, everything was fine.
It's clear. Yours too, Dad? Praise.
Yeah, well, they gave me a new medicine for diabetes, and after 3 months, then the test again, and everything is fine.
Wow.
The A1C is 6.7, which is very good. Yeah.
Well, we can go on and move on to the next phase of diabetes, which you can heal from it completely. That's
Yes.
Yes, right, Sister Yasana, right? There we go. She's cheering on now. We can't hear you, but we can hear you in the spirit. All right, so maybe we should retire. Someone to pray, brother, or to conclude us, brother.
Pray. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Vinu Yud He Vav He El Shaddai, the great I am. Father, we bow in your presence in humble adoration of your majesty and for the gifts you have given us. Father, I wanted to say this during the lesson, but I did not want to butt in too many times. But we were talking about the number 5 and the I wills and the I wills that Mashiach said in the Church of Philadelphia. But you also gave 5 ministerial gifts to us, the body. And those offices are mentioned in Ephesians chapter 4. So you equipped us, Father, to deal with everything that the enemy has to throw at us. And now that we are getting a systematic way in which Sister Susan is presenting this, is so amazing that we can see how thoughtful this plan of salvation has been and how really from the ground up you have thought of everything, and you have put us in a place to come back to you no matter what has happened. We are now brought back to the family. You have brought back us as your sons and daughters, which is what you intended originally. And we are so blessed and privileged to be part of the Kodashim remnant Mishpacha. And we know, Father, that there are many more like us around the world that you are dealing with. And it is our wish and our will and our prayer that all our children will be taught of you, and great will be the peace of our children, that we will all be established in your righteousness. Even though these fear and oppression and terror and all these things will gather together, they are not from you. And we will not receive them. They will fall for our sake. We command them to fall in the name of Yahusha, for you have given us authority over the power of darkness. And we take authority over the power of darkness. We walk in the light, and we will have fellowship. We are having tonight. And we pray that this grow and keep this group on this go to meeting YouTube cast, but it will spread throughout the body of Messiah, because the days are coming, Father, when only those that know you, Daniel 11:32 says, those that know you will be the ones that will do great exploits. And we know that the darkness is coming, that only those that know you really will be able to stand. So we ask that you help us to remember those words from Daniel 11:32 and all the encouragements that we have talked about tonight, to pay attention, to spend time with you, quality time, not just to recite it because it's a good thing to do, but to spend quality time. It doesn't matter the quantity of sections we read, but how, and how we apply what we read and how we put it and use it in our lives every day. So we thank you for this privilege. I thank you for Susan and all the time and effort she puts in. I pray that you continue to bless her mind and her brain, anoint her with your Ruach HaKodesh. I say, Father, I ask you to baptize her with your Ruach HaKodesh, with the power and the emboldenment to continue and not be intimidated. And I pray for her physical being to be strengthened with might by your Ruach HaKodesh, that she will indeed have the vigor and vitality to continue to compile and present these YouTube telecast so that we can join in these meetings every Tuesday and be part of an audience that I know will grow and multiply exponentially. As you have empowered her, this meeting will be so contagious. It will go viral, and people will get to see the things that you have put in this beautiful sister of ours mind, and the mind that you have given her. I pray for all of us that are attending right now and watching. And I pray for our extended Mishpachah families, all of them that you know them by name, and all their children. So thank you, Father, for this opportunity. And as we close now, I would like to pronounce the benediction before we close. May Yahuwah bless and keep you. May Yahuwah make his face to shine upon you. May Yahuwah be gracious unto you. May Yahuwah lift up his countenance upon you and give you his shalom. Shalom.